When someone doesn't value you anymore, the first step isn't about pointing fingers or seeking to fix the other person. It starts with you, with a deep and honest self-reflection. You must take a moment to pause and ask yourself some tough questions. Have I allowed behaviors that disrespect me? Have I been overextending myself, trying to prove my worth to someone who refuses to see it? These questions aren't meant to blame yourself, but to empower you to reclaim your control in the situation. Sometimes being undervalued stems from patterns we've unknowingly established. Maybe you've been too accommodating, saying yes when you wanted to say no, or tolerating neglect because you feared confrontation. These moments of compromise, while seemingly small, add up over time. Each instance sends a silent message about how you expect to be treated. The harsh truth is, people often respond to the standards we set for ourselves. If your standards are low, if you're always giving without receiving, or if you're constantly seeking their approval, you inadvertently teach them that your needs aren't a priority. Now, self-reflection isn't about judgment or regret. It's about awareness. Once you're aware of the patterns you've allowed, you can begin to break free. This is where your power lies. By shifting your focus inward, you create space to redefine your worth and to identify what truly matters to you. Think of it as pressing a reset button, not for the relationship, but for your own sense of self. Start by evaluating the energy you bring into your relationships. Are you giving from a place of love and strength, or are you giving because you're afraid of losing them? Are you speaking up for yourself, or are you shrinking into silence to avoid conflict? This kind of honesty can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Without it, you'll remain stuck in a cycle of undervaluation, constantly looking outward for solutions to a problem that starts within. You might even realize that this person undervaluing you is a reflection of something deeper, perhaps a pattern you've encountered in past relationships. Maybe you've been conditioned to accept less because you didn't believe you deserved more. But now is the time to challenge those beliefs. Now is the time to say enough. I am worthy of respect, of effort, and of love that's given freely, not because I beg for it, but because I am enough just as I am. Self-reflection is the foundation of transformation. It allows you to break free from the narratives that keep you small and step into the truth of who you are. By understanding the role you've played in the dynamic, you don't just take accountability, you take your power back. And once you've reclaimed that power, everything else begins to shift. You become the architect of your own self-worth, and that is where true change begins. When you start valuing yourself, you'll notice the energy around you change. Relationships that thrive on imbalance will fall away, and the ones that truly honor you will remain. You're not here to convince anyone of your value. You're here to embody it so fully that others have no choice but to see it. The next step is to establish boundaries, not as a form of punishment, but as a declaration of your worth. When someone doesn't value you, it's easy to fall into a pattern of overcompensating. You might give more of your time, energy, and resources hoping to prove your importance to them. But this approach often backfires because it comes from a place of seeking validation rather than standing in your own strength. Boundaries, on the other hand, shift the dynamic entirely. They send a powerful message: I respect myself enough to protect my peace, my time, and my energy. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you stop caring about the other person. It means you start caring about yourself just as much. Think about the areas in your life where you've been overextending yourself. Have you been saying yes to every request, even when you're exhausted? Have you been tolerating dismissive behavior because you're afraid of losing the connection? These are the moments where boundaries are needed most. They're not walls meant to shut people out. They're guidelines that show others how you expect to be treated. When you first start setting boundaries, it might feel uncomfortable, especially if you're used to putting others first. But discomfort is a sign of growth. It means you're stepping out of old patterns and creating space for something better. And here's the truth: people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. They might not understand them at first, especially if they've benefited from you having none. But over time, they'll come to see that your boundaries aren't a rejection of them, they're an affirmation of you. What does setting a boundary look like? It's as simple as saying, I'm not available at this time, or that behavior is not acceptable to me. It's about communicating your needs clearly and calmly, without guilt or apology. Remember, boundaries are not about controlling the other person. They're about taking control of yourself. They're about recognizing that your time and energy are valuable and that you have the right to decide where they're invested. Once you establish boundaries, something incredible happens. You start to see who truly values you. Some people will adjust and meet you with respect, while others may push back or even walk away. This can be painful, but it's also clarifying. It shows you who is willing to honor your worth and who is not. And the people who fall away, let them go. Their departure isn't a loss, it's a clearing. It's making room for healthier, more balanced relationships to enter your life. Boundaries are not just about the relationships you have with others, they're about the relationship you have with yourself. When you set boundaries, you're telling yourself, I am worthy of respect. I deserve to be treated with care. And as you honor these boundaries, you'll notice a shift, not just in how others treat you, but in how you see yourself. You'll feel stronger, more confident, and more aligned with the person you're meant to be. This shift in energy is magnetic, and it begins the moment you decide to put yourself first. The next key is detaching emotionally from the situation, not as a means to disconnect from people altogether, but to regain clarity and inner peace. When someone doesn't value you, it's easy to get caught up in the emotional storm of rejection, hurt, or frustration. You replay conversations in your head, analyze their actions, and question your worth. But here's the thing, their inability to value says far more about them than it does about you. Emotional detachment allows you to see this truth clearly. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop overinvesting in places where your energy isn't reciprocated. Think of it like stepping back from a painting. Up close, you might fixate on the flaws, the smudges, the uneven strokes. But when you step back, you see the whole picture. The same is true for relationships. When you give yourself space, you can see the dynamics for what they really are, without the cloud of emotions distorting your perspective. To practice detachment, start by recognizing where you're giving too much emotional power to someone else. Are you constantly seeking their approval? Are you allowing their behavior to dictate your mood? These patterns are signals that you're too emotionally enmeshed. Detachment means reclaiming that power and shifting the focus back to yourself. It's about asking, what do I need right now? What brings me peace? One powerful tool for detachment is mindfulness. When you find your thoughts spiraling about how someone has treated you, pause. Take a deep breath and ground yourself in the present moment. Remind yourself that you cannot control their actions, but you can control your response. Instead of reacting out of hurt, choose to respond from a place of self-respect. This shift is subtle but transformative. It allows you to engage with others without losing yourself in the process. Another aspect of detachment is releasing expectations. Often we feel hurt because we expect others to meet our standards of behavior, only to be let down when they don't. But the truth is, people show up as they are, not as we wish them to be. Accepting this reality doesn't mean you lower your standards. It means you stop trying to change others and start focusing on what you can control, your own actions and choices. When you detach emotionally, you also free yourself from the need for validation. You stop waiting for someone else to see your worth because you already know it. This inner confidence is powerful. It creates a quiet strength that others can't help but notice. Detachment doesn't make you cold or indifferent. It makes you resilient. It allows you to navigate relationships with grace and dignity, knowing that your value isn't determined by how others treat you. As you practice detachment, you'll notice a shift. The things that used to trigger you will no longer have the same hold. You'll feel lighter, more in control, and more connected to your own sense of purpose. Detachment is not about walking away from relationships. It's about walking back to yourself. It's about finding peace within, regardless of the chaos around you. And when you operate from this place of inner calm, you attract relationships that are truly worthy of your energy. The next step is creating boundaries, not just for others, but for yourself. When someone doesn't value you, it's often because they've come to expect that you'll always be there. no matter how they treat you. Boundaries change that dynamic. They're not about punishing the other person. They're about protecting your emotional well-being and setting clear standards for how you deserve to be treated. Boundaries are powerful because they communicate self-respect without the need for confrontation. Think of boundaries as a reflection of the love and value you hold for yourself. If you constantly give without limits, people may take without regard. But when you set boundaries, you send a strong message: I am worth respect, and I will not settle for less. Now, setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're someone who naturally gives or avoids conflict. But discomfort is a sign of growth. Start small. For instance, if someone dismisses your time or energy, be clear about what you will and won't tolerate. Instead of saying yes out of obligation, try saying, I can't do that right now. Instead of staying silent when something bothers you, say, this doesn't work for me. These simple phrases hold immense power. They're not aggressive, but they're firm, and they protect your peace. Boundaries are also about consistency. You can't set them once and expect others to always honor them. People will test them, especially if they're used to crossing them. But your job is to hold the line not in anger, but in confidence. When you stand firm in your boundaries, people learn how to treat you, and more importantly, they learn what happens if they don't. You're teaching them that access to your time, energy, and heart is a privilege, not a right. Here's where boundaries become transformative. They're not just about managing others, they're about managing yourself. Setting boundaries forces you to look inward and ask, what am I allowing? What am I enabling? Often we resent others for their behavior, but we haven't taken the time to establish what we will and won't accept. Boundaries put the responsibility for your happiness back where it belongs in your hands. When you set boundaries, something remarkable happens. People who don't truly value you will begin to fade away. And that's okay, because their departure makes space for those who genuinely respect and appreciate you. But even more importantly, boundaries give you back your sense of self. You're no longer defined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself. And here's the beauty of it: when you enforce boundaries with confidence and kindness, the right people will rise to meet them. They'll recognize your strength, respect your limits, and value your presence even more. Boundaries don't push people away. They draw the right ones closer while keeping the wrong ones at a distance. Once you've created distance and established boundaries, it's time to shift your focus entirely inward. This is the moment to invest in yourself like never before. When someone doesn't value you, the natural reaction is to dwell on their behavior, to question what went wrong, or to try to figure out how to change their perspective. But the truth is, their lack of value for you says more about them than it does about you. And the greatest response is to redirect all that energy back into your own growth. Think about it. When was the last time you truly prioritized yourself? Not out of guilt, not out of necessity, but because you deserved it. It's time to focus on becoming the best version of yourself. This doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means becoming you authentically, unapologetically, and with a sense of purpose. Start by reconnecting with your passions. What lights you up? What inspires you? Too often, when we're wrapped up in relationships or trying to gain someone's approval, we lose sight of our own dreams. But now is the perfect time to revisit them. Take that class you've been putting off. Pursue that goal you've been too afraid to start. Or simply give yourself permission to explore something new. The act of investing in yourself sends a clear message, not just to others, but to your own spirit: I am worth the effort. And here's the magic that happens when you prioritize yourself: your energy changes. People are drawn to confidence, to passion, to someone who knows their worth and lives it. When you invest in yourself, you radiate that energy. You no longer seek validation from external sources because you're creating it within. And that's magnetic. It's not about trying to make someone value you. It's about becoming someone who values themselves so deeply that others can't help but take notice. This stage of focusing inward also requires a shift in mindset. Stop measuring your worth by how others treat you. Instead, measure it by how you treat yourself. Do you speak kindly to yourself? Do you celebrate your wins, no matter how small? Do you show yourself the grace and understanding you give to others? Self-investment isn't just about achievements, it's about nurturing the relationship you have with yourself. And as you grow, you'll notice something remarkable. The person who didn't value you will begin to see the transformation. They'll see the confidence in your step, the joy in your voice, and the light in your eyes. They might even come back realizing what they took for granted. But by then, you'll have a choice, a powerful one. Because investing in yourself doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see them. And often you'll realize that you deserve so much more than what they were willing to give. So make yourself your greatest project. Pour into your passions, your growth, and your peace. Because when you invest in yourself, you don't just rebuild, you rise higher than ever before. Now that you've reconnected with your worth and invested in yourself, the next step is to let your actions do the talking. Often when someone doesn't value us, we feel the urge to explain, to convince, or even to prove why we are worthy. But here's the truth: real value doesn't need to be explained. It is shown through how you live your life. You don't need to announce your transformation. In fact, silence is one of the most powerful responses you can give. It's not about ignoring or pretending the person doesn't exist. It's about shifting the focus entirely away from them and toward your actions, your choices, and your growth. When you stop explaining yourself, you take back your power. You're no longer seeking validation or permission to be yourself. Imagine this: instead of arguing about your worth or trying to make them see your value, channel that energy in building something extraordinary in your life. Maybe it's pursuing a career goal that's been on your heart, cultivating relationships with people who celebrate you, or simply living in a way that brings you joy. You start to embody confidence and purpose, and that speaks louder than any words ever could. The beauty of this stage is that it doesn't require drama or confrontation. It's about subtle but impactful changes in how you carry yourself. You start saying yes to opportunities that align with your vision. You start setting boundaries that protect your peace. And most importantly, you start showing up for yourself in ways that you've always wanted others to show up for you. That shift is magnetic because it's authentic. You're not pretending to be someone else, you're embracing who you truly are. And here's what happens when you live this way: people notice. Not because you're trying to make them notice, but because your energy has changed. When you walk into a room with confidence, when you speak with purpose, when you live with joy, it's undeniable. The person who didn't value you may begin to question their actions, wondering why they didn't see this side of you before. But by now, you're no longer living for their validation, you're living for yourself. This doesn't mean you're shutting people out or holding grudges. It means you've learned to move with grace. You can forgive without reconnecting, let go without bitterness, and grow without looking back. Your silence becomes your strength, and your growth becomes your response. By letting your actions speak louder than your words, you create a life that reflects your value so deeply that no one can deny it. And in doing so, you free yourself from the need for external validation. You've proven your worth not to them, but to yourself. And that's the most powerful statement you could ever make. Once you've reached this point of clarity and self-assurance, something transformative happens. You start to realize the beauty of non-attachment. When someone doesn't value you anymore, the instinct may be to hold on tighter, to prove your worth, or to hope for their return. But in truth, freedom begins when you let go not just of the person, but of the need for their approval or validation. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring about people or wishing them well. It means you stop tying your sense of self to how they treat you. It's releasing the weight of expectations and allowing yourself to live without the emotional chains of needing someone to see your worth. You're no longer chasing recognition, apologies, or explanations. Instead, you're embracing peace that comes from knowing you've done your part, and the rest isn't your responsibility. This stage is where your true power lies. Non-attachment doesn't mean indifference, it means freedom. It means you can love and care for others deeply, but not at the expense of yourself. It means you can wish someone well from a distance without needing to be a part of their life. And most importantly, it means you trust that the right connections, the ones that value you, honor you, and see your worth, will come naturally when you're aligned with your true self. When you let go, you also let in something new: space Space for better relationships, clear opportunities, and deeper peace. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with the weight of someone else's opinions, judgments, and treatment of you. Letting go is like setting that backpack down. You feel lighter, freer, and more capable of moving forward with grace and purpose. And here's the most surprising part: when you truly let go, people often notice. It's like an invisible shift in the energy you radiate. The person who once didn't value you might feel that shift and suddenly recognize what they've lost. But by then, you're no longer waiting for their acknowledgement. You found something far more valuable: your own sense of worth and freedom. This isn't about revenge or playing games. It's about finding peace and knowing that you don't need anyone to complete you. It's about trusting that what's meant for you will find you, and what isn't will fall away. And in that trust, you'll discover the strength to keep moving forward, living fully, and embracing everything life has to offer. When you finally take control of your narrative, you step into the most empowering stage of all, redefining your standards and boundaries. This isn't about shutting people out or being harsh. It's about protecting your energy, your time, and your sense of self from those who don't respect or value them. Boundaries aren't walls, they're gates. They allow the right people in while keeping the wrong influences out. This simple trick, setting firm boundaries, doesn't just show others how to treat you, it also reminds you of your own worth. Imagine a life where you no longer tolerate disrespect or manipulation, where your time and heart are spent only on those who reciprocate with genuine care. That's the life boundaries create. They don't diminish you, they amplify your sense of freedom and peace. The beauty of boundaries is that they are a reflection of self-love. When you say, I won't allow this, you're really saying, I value myself too much for this. And let's be clear, people who don't respect your boundaries often didn't value you in the first place. Their resistance to your growth isn't a reflection of you, but a testament to their unwillingness to change or adjust. This is where the magic happens, when you realize that losing those people isn't a loss, it's a gift. Setting boundaries might feel uncomfortable at first. It might make you question if you're being too strict or unfair. But remember, boundaries aren't about them, they're about you. They're about creating a life where you can thrive emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And here's the powerful part: boundaries naturally attract respect. They draw in those who see and honor your value, and they gently remove those who don't. What's fascinating is how your energy shifts once you embrace boundaries. You'll notice people responding differently, some with admiration and others with resistance. Those who truly care for you will adapt because they respect what you're building: a healthy, fulfilling life. Those who don't, they'll fall away, leaving space for better, more aligned connections. This shift doesn't just improve your relationships with others, it strengthens your relationship with yourself. Each time you honor your boundaries, you're reaffirming that you deserve respect, love, and care. And when you live from that truth, you become magnetic, not to everyone, but to the right people, the ones who truly value you. This is how you take your power back. By standing firm in what you will and won't allow, you build a life of purpose and fulfillment. You're not waiting for anyone else to recognize your worth. You've already claimed it for yourself. And in doing so, you've created a foundation for real, meaningful connections that elevate your life. Finally, we come to the most transformative action you can take, focusing entirely on your own growth and goals. When someone stops valuing you, the best response isn't to fight for their attention or prove your worth to them. It's to pour all that energy into yourself. This is not about revenge or trying to make them notice you. It's about stepping into the best version of who you are, regardless of their opinion. When you redirect your focus inward, something remarkable happens. You begin to see opportunities you might have missed while you were distracted by seeking validation. Your confidence grows because you're no longer waiting for someone else to affirm your value. You're building it yourself. Whether it's pursuing a career goal, learning a new skill, or simply committing to better physical and emotional health, this is the moment you take control of your life. This shift in energy does more than just benefit you. It changes how others perceive you. People are naturally drawn to someone who is confident and self-assured, someone who isn't defined by external approval. Ironically, the more you focus on your growth, the more magnetic you become. It's not about making them regret losing you. It's about becoming so aligned with your own purpose that their opinions simply don't matter anymore. Focusing on your growth is also a way to heal. It redirects pain and disappointment into something constructive. Instead of replaying the moments where you felt undervalued, you're actively creating moments that remind you of your own worth. You're transforming your life one step at a time. And with each step, you're reinforcing the truth that you are enough, just as you are. This process doesn't happen overnight, and that's okay. Growth is a journey, not a destination. But as you keep moving forward, you'll start to notice the freedom that comes from letting go of people who don't value you. Their absence creates space for new opportunities and relationships that align with your true worth. In the end, focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's the foundation for a life where you're not dependent on someone else's validation to feel whole. When you prioritize your growth, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And that's the ultimate goal, to live a life so full and fulfilling that you no longer need to question your value. You know it and you live it. The final key point is perhaps the most empowering one of all. Don't wait for validation from others. Create your own affirmation. This idea is revolutionary, but so often we find ourselves waiting for someone else to tell us that we're enough, that we matter. Whether it's a partner, a friend, or even a stranger, we look for external signs that our existence is worthwhile. But the truth is, you don't need anyone else to give you that affirmation. The power to affirm your worth lies within you. When you stop waiting for validation, you free yourself from the limitations that come with it. You stop giving away your power to people who might not even see your value. Instead, you step into your own life fully aware of your worth, and no one else's opinion can sway that. This isn't about arrogance, but rather about self-respect and emotional independence. You're no longer tied to external approval. Creating your own affirmation means developing a deep connection with who you are and what you bring to the world. It starts with understanding your own values, strengths, and purpose. It means embracing your unique journey, not as something that requires validation, but as something that deserves to be celebrated. Every small victory, every challenge you overcome is proof that you are enough just as you are. This shift is transformational because it removes the uncertainty of waiting for someone else to decide your worth. It's not about ignoring constructive feedback or being dismissive of others' perspectives. It's about recognizing that you are the ultimate authority in your own life. You hold the keys to your success, to your happiness, and to your sense of worth. And here's the thing, when you start affirming your own worth, something magical happens. People around you begin to notice. They sense the confidence you carry, the quiet strength that comes from within. You stop chasing after validation, and as a result, you start attracting the right kind of energy into your life, people who truly appreciate you for who you are, not for what they can get from you. The more you affirm yourself, the more you'll start to notice how much easier life becomes. You'll no longer second guess yourself. You'll no longer wonder if you're good enough because you know deep in your bones that you are. And it won't matter if others don't see it, their perspective is no longer your responsibility. So as you continue on your journey, remember this: you don't need anyone's permission to be who you are. You don't need anyone's approval to step into your greatness. Your affirmation is yours to create, and it's more powerful than anything anyone else could ever give you. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll be free to live the life you were meant to live on your own terms, fully and unapologetically you.